guys, Tom here. Thanks for tuning in. We are going to be talking about the differences between dialogue editing and mixing today. So if you have any questions about that while we're live, go ahead and drop them in the chat. And as always, if you have questions after we're live, when this plays as just a replay video, go ahead and drop a comment, and I do my best to answer every question that comes up that I can answer. So yeah, if I missed a question, also just please remind me. Oh, I need to put my mic on. My mic's all the way down here. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna let you guys decide which software we work or start in at the very least. I'm getting really comfortable in DaVinci Resolve, so we can do that, or we can do Pro Tools. I mean, really, we're going to be talking more concepts than like actual here's how you edit, because I've done a ton of videos and streams on specific techniques for dialogue editing and mixing. So if you want to see something, just shout out and I will cover it. But we're going to be talking more like the mindset of when you do each each step of the process. So we have an early vote from Mike and Paul for Pro Tools. So we are going to open up Pro Tools here. And Greg says DaVinci. So we might switch over to DaVinci. So thank you guys. We got a bunch of members in the chat. Let me just, while Pro Tools is starting up here, do I have anything on my screen I don't want to share? I don't think so. Okay. So let's see. We've got Brandon. We got Tiziano. We got Mike, Paul, Sunny Audio. I don't know how to say this one. Sorry. Greg, Master, Nelson, Kevin, and yeah, we got a lot of votes for Pro Tools, so let's open this up. Also, I have some kind of interesting news, which is that, and I was debating on whether or not I should talk about this. I am developing a plugin, and it's, yeah, I've kind of talked to channel members in the Discord a little bit about it, but so when I'm mixing in either software, DaVinci or Pro Tools, I end up having kind of like a chain of plugins that I really like, and most re-recording mixers have their dialogue chain. So their dialogue chain is going to be made up of EQ, compressor, de-esser, probably a limiter, obviously noise reduction plays a big part of that. So the frustration I have with that is I end up having, like 4 different plugins. And so I'll show you guys this later. This will be like not a tease, but more like a reason to stay tuned in. At the end of the stream, I'm going to show you what I've been working on with this plugin that I've got a working prototype. It sounds really good, so I just have to wait for Avid to get back to me, because I want to release it in Pro Tools and an AU and a VST3 plugin, which are a lot easier. But the AAX plugin, you have to go through all kinds of specific code signing, and it's pretty involved. So also, if anybody has a experience with that, or a plugin developer who could do that for me, I'm totally willing to pay for help on that. I've got a couple feelers out to some people that I know that do it, but I've developed this plugin on my own, and I have a feeling I'm just going to end up doing everything myself. So that's kind of the path I'm headed down, and with work being kind of slow, it's like a perfect time to learn something new. So that's what I've been working on. So in Pro Tools, we've got our short family heirloom, which I'm also debating, like maybe it's been like a year since I've made this short, so I'm kind of thinking it might be time to discount this as a practice production. I've got this one short. I've noticed another guy on YouTube who does audio post videos. He's got like a bunch of shorts he's licensed, and as per usual for Tom, I didn't license this. I just made it myself with some friends. So I was thinking, I've had this for a year, and it's done what I wanted it to. So maybe I'll just discount this for people who need a practice production. They can just snag it for really cheap. So anybody who's bought this or anything off my website, thank you so much, because it's really helped me out. So in Pro Tools, this is kind of the DAW we're going to be working on, but I did actually do an outline. I got my first real troll comment, and it was somebody saying that they were concerned I was on drugs and that I didn't know what I was talking about, which is true. The first part's not true. I'm not on drugs. I do drink coffee in the morning, and it's really strong coffee. So if I come in hot on a stream, it's just because I've had the equivalent of like 6 cups of coffee. But yeah, it's good to have those kind of comments because it kind of like checks you and like, oh, maybe I need to be a little more organized. He was complaining about my lack of organization. So I will try to do better by you guys and not be so scatterbrained with stuff. So let's, we got a question which is really good. Israel says, when dialogue editing, do you gain with fader to manual compress, or do you just clip gain and save the fader for the mix? Yes. So that is an excellent question. We will get into clip gaining, and I mean, this would probably be volume. We will get into that, but you know, Lorenzo answered how I would answer, which is gain stage with your clip gain, not with the fader. I do both, like save the fader for the mix, Israel, just like you said. Clip gain during the edit, and then, you know, save the fader for the mix. Exactly. That's the right way to do it. So, okay. And Jason says DaVinci Resolve for audio editing and mixing dialogue. It's totally possible to do it. I know you're laughing about that, but I've been using Pro Tools for like 20 years, and I've been using DaVinci for maybe 1. And I'm telling you, as somebody who has made a full-time living supporting a family of 4, buying a house, buying vehicles, no trust fund, no side jobs or anything, full-time living doing audio post, I'm telling you, it is totally possible to do a great job on a dialogue edit in DaVinci. The Fairlight tab, not the edit tab of DaVinci, but the Fairlight tab. You can do every step that you can do in Pro Tools in DaVinci Resolve. And that's somebody who, like, I'm super invested in Pro Tools. DaVinci has caught up with Pro Tools as far as editing, and the layered editing actually is a little bit better than Pro Tools. So laugh all you want, but I think that's where stuff is headed. Okay, so let's talk about the difference between dialogue editing and mixing. There's a lot of confusion, and it's the biggest group of questions I get on a stream is noise reduction and when to do each step. So I've kind of broken these down. Let me make this a little bit bigger. I've kind of broken these down into edit and mix, and you have an adjust, an add, and a remove reduce for each one. So I tried to do that so we can kind of A/B them. So during a dialogue edit, we are adjusting sync. You know, stuff comes in and it's out of sync, or it just looks out of sync. Sometimes it's actually synced up, but it looks out of sync. So that can happen. That's a thing. We are adjusting the clip gain. That is a big deal. Like, gain staging is super important. So we need to adjust the clip gain for stuff. And what else do we need to do? I'm trying to like adjust my camera a little bit here. Okay, okay, so clip gain and an organization. We, during a dialogue edit, are going to be checkerboarding tracks, which you can see here. We're going to be moving things to the PFX. We're going to be, you know, making the session presentable and logical for the mix. So that's what we're adjusting during the dialogue edit. Let's just flip over to a dialogue mix. What are we adjusting? We are adjusting, yeah, Paul, that's correct. Pulling the PFX out in the dialogue edit is part of organization. Some mixers do not like that. They want the PFX left and leave that for the M&E guy or gal, but I like to pull them out, especially big loud ones, because they're going to hit a compressor and do some bad stuff. So put them on the PFX. So that's what we adjust for the dialogue edit. Sync, clip gain, organization. What do we adjust during the dialogue mix? We're adjusting the tonality, usually meaning EQ. We're adjusting the dynamics with either a fader or a compressor. You could also maybe say sibilance, but I like to leave that for this other category. We're adjusting the balance, meaning the balance between microphones or shots. You know, maybe one shot is a little too loud, or we want it to be not so loud because it's a wide shot. And that kind of goes with volume. We're adjusting the volume. We're writing faders. So those are the differences in what we're adjusting for each section. The dialogue edit comes first, dialogue mix follows after. So what are we adding during a dialogue edit? We're adding fill. We're making the transition smooth by adding fill. We are fading in and out. We're cross-fading on clips that are butted up against each other. And I like to also add missing items. There might be a cutaway of a character that does a little breath, and there's no audible breath in the track. I'll go look for a breath and I'll add it in. Or PFX. Sometimes they shoot inserts MOS, but you know, on the coverage, they picked up the sound that I could use for the insert. So I'll go add it in. I really want my dialogue edit when it's finished to play as a realistic, consistent, believable track with nothing missing. That means footsteps, props, even ambience. Like I might add a bird at the top of a scene. You can get super creative with what you add in. You don't want to add too much though. You don't want to add noise. Okay, so in a mix, what are we adding? We're adding missing frequencies or frequencies that are lacking. You know, maybe they're not missing completely. You can't add stuff that's missing completely. So this really should be, what's a good word for this? Help me out here, guys. Adjective for missing. It's not really missing. It's like lacking or I don't know. Anyways, frequencies that need to be boosted, basically. Something might be too dull or it might be too flat. It might be lacking bass, it might be lacking mids. So we add that. We also, when it's necessary or useful to the story, we will add space with reverb. Or you can also add space by adding more boom sound into your mix. If you're cutting both boom and lav and the boom is super distant, you could just bring the boom up. That will add noise, but it also adds some space. So, okay, that's good. I like that, enhancing. So that was Colade Moraquinho. Thank you for that. Your English is better than mine. And then, so that's what we're adding for the dialogue edit and the mix. So see how I've separated these out? It's really important to separate these steps, dialogue edit and dialogue mix. Now, what are we removing in a dialogue edit? We're removing useless mics. That means if it's an off mic, for example, you have two lavs, and you know the one person is speaking for the whole clip, I'm going to remove the microphone that doesn't have good signal on it. That's going to clean up the track quite a bit. We're also removing imperfections. These would include ticks, pops, bumps, clangs, bangs, and other undesirable transient sounds. Like, I'm not talking generator noise, I'm not talking traffic noise, I'm talking about, let's call these transient imperfections. So things that just happen for like a frame or a couple frames, I want them scrubbed out of the track. So not, I need to put this, not broadband. Ooh, thank you, autocorrect. Noise. That is super important. It's so important. Look what I'm going to do to it. Bold, italic. And actually, that's not enough. Let's make it a lot bigger. Let's make it so big it dominates. There. That's the biggest thing I want you to take away from this. Do not remove broadband noise during your dialogue edit. Okay. Greg asks, do you remove useless mics or just disable? I take them out. I kick them out. I give them the boot. I give them the Heisman. I chuck them across the block. They are gone. Be confident with your decisions. If it's questionable, do I keep this mic? Then sure, keep it. But if it's just noise and off mic, no, kick it out of there. Those little tiny decisions end up making your dialogue sound way better. Paul says, are you metering the dialogue during your edit? Sometimes, yeah. Generally, the best thing to do, Paul, is to have a calibrated room and just know by the sound of the volume that you're in the pocket, you're in the sweet spot. It takes a while to get to that point. So if you're not confident in your room or you're editing on headphones, yeah, throw a Isotope Insight 2 or a Ulian loudness meter or the Pro Limiter in Pro Tools, or in DaVinci they have the loudness monitoring. Just have that up and try to get your dialogue edit to around -27 average. Scenes can go up or down. But what you don't want is have one scene be like -15 40 and one be minus 14 and have like, you know, a huge dynamic range, because that is difficult for viewers to listen to. It also makes mixing it way harder because the mixer is having to fight the noise floor instead of, you know, doing this stuff, the good creative mixing stuff. Okay, so we were talking about removing and reducing, what you remove and reduce in each phase. The dialogue edit comes first, then the dialogue mix. So we are not, I'm going to keep harping on this till I die, till I'm a 55-year-old man on my deathbed. Do not remove broadband noise during the dialogue edit. Save it for the mix. Okay? So then what are we removing and reducing in the dialogue mix? That's when we're removing the bad noise. And I'm going to do a bold, I'm not going to make this huge, but I'm going to do bold and italic. Bad noise. Not all noise is bad. We have a plethora of noise reduction tools, and I see people misusing them every day. I hear it. I hear it on commercials that are broadcast on national commercials. There's too much noise being reduced. If you can hear the plugin working, then it's too much. So back off. Bad mixer, put the noise reduction down. Give it a break. Just focus on the bad noise, and maybe not removing it, maybe just reducing it. You know, like, don't feel like you have to nuke it. You just have to like heat it up a little bit. Resonances, this is a hard one. This is one I even kind of like have to go back and redo. Some combinations of people and microphones, there's a little resonance, mid-range resonance or low or whatever. It's really good to just notch those out with an EQ, just a little parametric EQ. Sibilance, I put this on remove, reduce. It's really reduce. Sibilance is easy to go too hard on. So, you know, take that and just reduce it a tiny bit. And also listen on different speakers, because sometimes your monitors will accentuate that. But when it goes out, you know, to air or whatever, it's going to be fine. And then imperfections, this is kind of just a catch-all phrase. You know, you should be removing transient imperfections in the dialogue edit, but this could be any number of things, like maybe a lav mic picked up a heartbeat. You know, some people will remove that during the dialogue edit. I like to leave the heartbeats in and just EQ them out. And actually, sometimes I don't EQ them. Sometimes I leave them in. I feel like it adds this, we're talking like super, you know, artsy-fartsy philosophy of sound mixing, but I feel like having the human imperfections in a track can kind of enhance the mix. So sometimes you want to reduce them a little bit, you know, so they're just not so bad. Yeah. Okay, so we got, people are a little bit upset in the chat about me saying 55 on my deathbed. That's because I live a hard life, man. I drink coffee, and every once in a while I'll drink a beer. I don't eat very good. I'm out, you know, hiking up in the mountains with cougars and bears and dealing with explosives and firearms and all kinds of stuff when I'm not here in the studio. So yes, if I make it to 55, I'll be pretty happy. Okay, so yeah, that's what we're, that's what we are hoping to achieve with each of these steps. We're adjusting, we're adding, we're removing, but we're doing different things for each one. So 20 minutes in, I feel like I've covered the philosophy of, you know, dialogue editing and kind of what the differences between each step are. So at this point, let's answer a bunch of questions. And if you have them, now is a great time to just chuck them out there. Don't hold back. Okay. Lorenzo asks, clip gain before syncing or after, since the noise and other stuff could trigger negatively auto-align post and low parts the alignment process. Well, Lorenzo, that is a great question. Generally, when I'm using auto-align post, I am doing like, you know, a bunch of tracks. So I'm not doing just single clips. I'm doing the whole thing. So with that workflow, the setting that I normally use is individual files and clip by clip, which doesn't print the clip gain. So any clip gaining I do is not going to be permanently overwritten to the files. So I don't think clip gaining for the sake of plugin processing really helps. But what clip gaining does help is make the imperfections way more accessible to your ears. So early in my career, I would get dialogue edits where the average dialogue was maybe minus 40. Like I got the session from the dialogue editor, I played it, and the average was like minus 40. So right off the bat, I'm having to boost the gain, 10, 15 dB. Then now I can hear ticks, pops, bumps, tone shifts. So clip gaining is super important. It's crucial to a dialogue edit to have your tracks up at the proper volume. The danger of playing them back too quiet, either because your monitors are turned down or because you're not clip gaining enough, the danger of that is that you just won't hear the imperfections that you need to really focus on as a dialogue editor. So it's super important to, one, have a calibrated space, or if you're on headphones, at least be monitoring at a pretty high volume, and two, make sure you clip gain your individual tracks so that you can hear all the imperfections. Those are like two big mistakes that I see, regardless of the DAW or NLE used, is just not monitoring loud enough or not clip gaining loud enough to hear everything. You do have to balance that with, you don't want to clip your tracks, and you don't want to be like so hot that the mixer is immediately having to turn everything down. But I like to try and shoot for minus 27 LUFS in a dialogue edit. And then the mixer doesn't have to do as much global gaining up. The compressors don't have to do as much makeup gain. They're not having to boost the fader up 12 dB just to hear what's being said. So I think that's a really good practice. Okay. So Israel asks, if you have FUTS dialogue, do you FUTS in the dialogue edit? This is such a great question. Israel, I think this is like the second great question you've had. Let me see. Yeah, so I'm going to say you are the star helper today. My kids are going to elementary school, and they have this thing in their school called a star helper, and it's like a kid that gets to help the teachers, so you are the star helper, Israel. Thank you. What I like to do in a dialogue edit, going back to this, the edit, not the mix, is I edit with FUTS tracks, and I just have an EQ. It doesn't have to be the right EQ. I do want to hear what the dialogue sounds like bandpassed, but what I'll do when I'm actually editing on these tracks, like you can see here, I've got material on these tracks, is first I'll go fill. This is a pretty good example because here we're outside. Let me close this, we don't need this. We're outside with the bike, right? And then here we cut to in the car with Cigarette Man. He's hearing on the phone the guy on the bike. So the bike sound needs to go from front and center dialogue track to a FUTS track because we want to hear it coming through his cell phone, which is right here. I, with that, need to fill this car sound out with nice flat or useful fill so that it's consistent. So we go into the car and the car sound continues. You don't want to have it be like this because then we're going to hear the transition into the shot. But I need to listen to this FUTS track full range, so I will make the plugin inactive so that I can edit out any bumps and ticks and pops and whatever that would be damaged by having EQ on. And then I'll go make it active again so then I can listen to the FUTS version and make sure my cut happens at the right point. Because just having this, if I go to grid mode, if I had this transition a frame off and I'm not listening with the plugin inactive or bypassed, it'll sound fine. So you need to listen both. Unfortunately, you do, on a FUTS sequence, have to go back through it twice. So make sure you checkerboard with the track plugin active, and then when you're actually editing it, go ahead and make it inactive so that you can cover both, cover both options. Great question. Okay. So I do listen to the dialogue FUTs in the edit, but I'm not adjusting the EQ. It's really just for monitoring. House of Jen says, do any of these steps change if it's say audio only? If it's say audio only or single mic recording? So if you're talking about like a podcast, then I would still go through this process. Really, this is a process aimed at quality work. If you are having to do fast, cheap, dirty work, then you'll start combining edit and mix together. You know, podcasts don't generally have a lot of money. So I've had to do some of those where I'm mixing while I'm editing. But if you're going for top quality work, do separate the processes to an edit and a mix. And it'll be the same for each, like TV show, podcast, film, radio play, whatever. Like you should really separate these out. It's just different mindsets for each. So good question. Greg asks, are you always aligning phase of boom and lav? Always. If the boom is usable and the lav is usable, I'm aligning them both. I'm editing them both. I'm editing them soloed, which is something some people don't do. Like I'll go and I will solo the lav and I'll edit that, and then I'll solo the boom and I'll edit that, and then I'll unsolo them and see how they sound as a composite and make sure they work together. So I'm doing it 3 times. You can just do them as a pair, but the lav is going to have different issues than the boom. You know, the lav is going to have a lower noise floor, which you can see here, and it's also going to have more clothing and mechanical noise because it's attached to the person. So I like to edit them individually and then as a pair. So good question. Alex Champagne says, Autoline Post 2 versus Absentia DX. So Absentia DX I have not gotten to work as well as Autoline Post 2. Great question. I hoped that Absentia DX would align, but I don't think it does dynamic alignment, and I just haven't gotten good results out of it. So it's something they could definitely improve on. Mike says, if you have both boom and lav mics for a FUTS track, do you typically FUTS only the lav? Nope, I FUTS them both. You might end up with like 4 or 8 FUTS tracks if that's the case. Yeah, so Master Nelson nailed it. Absentia isn't as good since it doesn't account for dynamic phase shifts like auto align post 2. How do you make your FUTS track? Good question. So I'm not the most organized person, but I do believe in audio post to be pretty organized. So you can see I've got dialogue 1 through 9. This one only uses 9 tracks. I've got some X tracks, which I actually need to probably mute or make inactive. And then the FUTS tracks, all you really need to do is add, in Pro Tools, you know, Shift Command N, add 2 mono and call them DX FUTS, and add an EQ to it. So I like to do a band pass at like 4 to 500 and then one at like 4 to 5K. This is just a basic, you know, pretty harsh 36 dB per octave high pass and similar on the low pass. So I want it to be super band limited so I can really crunch it up. This is something directors end up wanting to adjust a lot, is the FUTS. Some of them want a realistic FUTS, and then some of them want like, you know, more gentle FUTS. So that's how you do it. And then you route those to your dialogue bus. So I'll have to do that. Dialogue dialogue aux, and then that goes to the print master. So, and you have to like add plugins and all that stuff. So that's how you do it. I've got a specific video on FUTS tracks, which you can check out too. Okay. What's your way to go when the boom is missing in some part? That's a great question, Lorenzo. So I'll do the same thing if a lav is missing too. A lot of the times, even on big budget shows, the lav will drop out, like the battery dies on the pack, or the actress says, I don't want to be mic'd for this one shot. I want to go back to my trailer. So then what you have to do, let's say like there's a big dropout here, you know, like that. What I'll do is I'll get some fill and I will fill through the missing section. So you can do that. That method will get you by in a pinch. If, for example, this shot, the boom op was on a union break and there's just nothing there, then I'll grab fill from a previous shot and make a terrible loop. This way it's consistent. So we have boom sound up here. we still have it here. It doesn't just drop to silence. Because what you don't want to do is have this. This is going to play as a whole now. There's going to be no ambience for this shot, and then we're going to go back to ambience for this shot. So you want to make sure that, for example, if I were to solo my boom tracks, I can play this scene through and the booms are consistent. And the reason I like to do that is if I was handing this over to another mixer, they were old school and they didn't like lavs, or they didn't want to use them for some reason, maybe they didn't like the tonality of them, the edit still plays consistently with just the boom tracks. And you want to do the same with your lavs. At least this is how I like to edit. So now I have the lavs soloed and I can listen to the scene and the lavs play back consistently. I have seen suggestions, especially in our members only Discord, which has been great for, you know, communicating and sharing techniques. I have seen a lot of people suggest that cutting the lavs tight was okay. I feel like this is a pretty European, British way of cutting stuff. So you have the boom up here, and then you have the lav here, and the lav just kind of pops in and out. I don't like cutting this way because if there's hiss or rustle or something, some kind of imperfection on the track, and I just play the lavs, then I have it go in and out, in and out, in and out. I want it to be consistent. So I really like to fill all the way through so that if I were to solo the lavs, top to bottom the scene, they're pretty consistent, and same with the booms. Sometimes you can't do that, but ideally that's the way you go about it. So good question. And that kind of covers Paul's, do you fill both the boom and the lavs? Yeah, I do. Okay. How to adjust ADR recording to fit in the OG scene? Like how to adjust the tone? That's a great question. So here's some ADR, and let's see what I did here. Generally, when you're dealing with ADR, you have to go pretty dramatic on your EQ. The very best initial adjustments to make are cutting some of the lows and cutting some of the highs. This could be a low pass, it could be a low shelf. You can see I'm using both a low pass and a low shelf to dull down the microphone. This, for an exterior scene, really helps because for exteriors, they generally have wind protection on the mic, which cuts the frequencies above like 3K. So having a low shelf or a low pass will kind of dull the crispy highs. Similarly, cutting some of the lows will cut out some of the proximity effect from poorly recorded close mic'd ADR. And then the mid-range is kind of where you correct for the actual microphone discrepancy. Shep's mics have, you know, different mid-range than a Sennheiser mic, and even within brands, the models just pick up things differently. There will also be phase rotations and stuff, so you might have to do some manual comb filtering. These are all things that take a lot of years to learn, and it's just ear training. There's not really like a shortcut for this other than just doing a ton of it. So record a bunch of ADR, work on a bunch of films, try to get it close. One big thing that people bump on, and when I say bump, I mean they say, that's ADR, you know, it doesn't match, it doesn't sound real, it sounds disconnected. You get all these notes from directors who are very sensitive to ADR, and the best way to fix that is to go back to this. And let's just change this to ADR. ADR editing, ADR mixing. If they're bumping on the ADR, the first thing you should look at is sync. It's probably not synced up right. You have to go in and you have to, and I'm not going to say a bad word, but I'm going to use the letter of the word. You have to frame F the ADR. See, I've chopped it up into little chunks, and I've stretched, and I've moved, and I've shifted and nudged, and frame F'd this to sync up with his lips. So you have to do that first. Only after it's synced up can you start to EQ match it. So good question, kind of a long-winded answer for that. Okay. Kevin, I noticed that even when I'm using the same transmitters on boom and lavs with the same latency, they still need to be aligned. How does this happen? Yeah, so the only way that the boom and lavs will be perfectly in sync from the get-go, meaning you record the tracks and they go into your DAW and they're perfectly synced up. The only way that's going to happen is if the microphones are exactly the same distance from the sound source, you know? So if you have a lav, which I've got a crappy DJI mic here, this is going to be on my person right here, you know, and I'm just talking to you guys. But what if I go over here? You know, if there's a shotgun mic, ooh, I got an SM57 we'll use. So there, you can see it right there. So if I'm talking, and then I turn like this, I've changed the distance from both mics really, but more so the boom mic. So unless the boom is like glued to my face in the same distance from my mouth as the lav, there's going to be a little bit of delay. And the other thing that happens is you actually get a phase shift. So sometimes the first mod goes down on the boom and it goes up on the lav. So there's not really, you're never going to have perfectly aligned microphones if you have multi-track recordings. Even a stereo mic, my stereo mic is packed up, but even a stereo mic, the thing that makes the stereo, the thing that makes the stereo spread is the phase difference between the two capsules. So they're always going to be a little bit different. And the other thing, like I said, is phase. But those discrepancies aren't static, they're dynamic. The microphone's changing position, the talent's changing position, so they're always going to be out as far as phase and alignment. Okay, so good question. If mixers don't like using boom and lav combined, how do they get the dialogue in a scene to sound consistent? By mixing, by adjusting the EQ and noise reduction, dynamics and volume between each shot. You know, we didn't used to have lavs for every scene. It used to be, they would use lavs for like Steadicam scenes and oneers where it's like a wide shot, or they would just have them on the wide shot because they would do 20 setups a day, and so, oh, it's a wide shot, let's lav everybody. And then the close-ups would just be boom. Those movies still sound really good, and it's because, well, two things. One, the boom op did a great job. They cared about sound. But two, not every shot has to sound the same. A wide shot can sound a little more distant from a close-up. In fact, it probably should. If you watch Pulp Fiction, or, I mean, pick any movie from before, like, 1999, 98, 99, the shots sound like they look because the boom could only get so close. Those movies still sound great, so it's okay to have perspective. It shouldn't be flat through the whole scene. So good question. Do you consider dialogue elements meant for optional tracks at the dialogue editing stage? Not usually. Save that for the M&E. Do you ever use reverb on background ambiances and sound effects to put them further in the background and get in someone's head rather than just reducing gain? Yes, that is the best combination for this, Israel, and you're just killing it with these questions today. The best combination to put things in perspective is to EQ and then reverb. So I like a low pass with a reverb. I'll show you an example. I'll just pick a background ambient track here. I'm not going to play this because I'm not going to actually, it's just going to be birds. But if this background was playing and I wanted it to not be foreground, this is what I would do. I would do a 6 dB per octave low pass filter down to like 2K or so. And then I'd add a little bit of reverb to it. I don't know, it could be a mono reverb even. Sure, medium. So this combination, the low pass plus reverb, is like such a lo-fi beats to steady to technique. Like this is what all the lo-fi hip hop tracks sound like. They got low pass and reverb, low pass and reverb. And this combination sounds so good. Like that, if you want perspective, do this, and you can do it in varying degrees. Maybe some tracks it's 8K, maybe some tracks it's 2K, maybe it's all the way down here. that will push the sounds way back into the room, into the space, or in the character's mind, and make it to where they don't stick out so much. So great question. Israel Hernandez says, what do you recommend in Fairlight to reduce transients when editing dialogue? If you don't have RX, yes, cutting it out and replacing it with fill. The other thing you can do, I can show you, well, let me just switch over. I'm going to switch over to, don't save. Switch over to Fairlight because we're over halfway through. Yeah, there's this cool trick you can do where you just cut the transient and reduce the gain on it, and that works really well. It does change the noise floor a little bit, but it's fine. Greg says, so are you always mixing lav and boom? Yes, I am. Lorenzo, chameleon is a secret weapon. Yep, that's a good secret weapon. Russ asks, when you record ADR, do you try to place the mic to match camera perspective, onset boom distance, or do you close mic? I always try, if I'm lucky enough to record ADR, there's a couple things I try to do. One is I try to match the mic placement. If it's a wide shot, the mic's going to be here. If it's a close-up, it's going to be here. I try to match the mic angle too. And I was a boom op for a long time, so usually we would hang the mic kind of down like this, pointing. I would try to point it at their chin. And so I try to angle the mic properly. And then the other thing that's really cool and is done on some surprisingly big movies is actually record in the space or a similar space. So if it's outside ADR, take the actors outside. Get a field recorder, laptop, play it back, have them record outside. People project outside more. And yeah, you get a little noise, but it sounds like an exterior. Same with interiors. If the scene is taking place in a bathroom and you're trying to ADR it, go to the bathroom. Just record it in the real space because you're not going to have to process it. It's super risky to do that, but that's that confidence that comes with decision making. If you're confident and you say, no, here's how we're going to do this, it's just going to sound good. There's nothing wrong with recording in a real space. So good question. Okay. Instead of doing it manually, couldn't use EQ match in FabFilter. Talking about matching ADR. You can. FabFilter tends to add way too many bands. Actually, in Isotope, I've found that the EQ match works pretty good, like 50% of the time. And I'll have to bring it back into Pro Tools and do more, do more work to it. But it's usually, it'll get it somewhat close. Okay, that's on dim. So we're going to bring up, what do I want to do? Okay, we'll just bring up one of these LA stories. I got another one of these that I'll release soon-ish. Oh, I feel a sneeze coming on. I'm really sorry about this if I sneeze. I gotta remember it. I have to switch my brain every time. There we go. Okay. So, if you have a transient noise, let me find one. I'm a lip smacker, so it's not going to take me too long. Bear with me. I'm trying to find, we had a request for, let's say I'm in DaVinci and I don't want to pay for Isotope. I think you should get Isotope. It's really a really good tool. Okay, here's a lip smack. Okay, so one thing you could do, which is kind of old school and works in any DAW, is just, oh, I got to zoom way in. Nope. Come on, let me add another piece. It's not there we go. Okay, you can do this for a transient that's sticking out too much. Just reduce it. It's going to be a little 1 or 2 frame dip, bloop, and that will reduce it. You can do fill, but you have to cut the piece out. You have to blade it, and then oops, do this. Oop, blade it. Nope. And copy it over. Oh, and then it doesn't want to do it. Yeah. Oh, because I have layered, I think, do I have layered editing on? I do, yes. Okay, that's why. So yeah, it's copied the fill. to there, and I think, maybe not. So this doesn't quite work, does it? Anyways, that's how you would do it. You'd copy it and paste it over the top. Yeah, there's still some things I gotta learn in Fairlight, and this looks like one of them. I just wanted to copy and paste this clip over. It seems like that should be pretty easy. And no, so let me turn layered editing off. Oh gosh. How do I do this? Was it this one? Timeline? Help me out, guys. I'm spacing on, the speed is not there for me on DaVinci yet. Fairlight. Maybe it was a right click. I just want to turn off layered editing, timeline scrolling, clip, audio operations, link selection, trim. It should be an edit, right? I guess not. Anyways, the volume dip works. You should be able to copy and paste, but obviously it's not letting me do that for some reason. Yes, copy. Yes, paste. No, it says no, you can't do that. What about here? What if I do this? No, you can't do that? Okay. That's fine. I mean, I wanted to do that, but I guess I'm not allowed to in Fairlight. So here we go. View, show track layers. Thank you. Oh, yep, that's it. No. Oh, okay, there you go. Okay. So it did do it. I just couldn't see it for some reason. So yeah, you can copy and paste over the top, and that's fine. This is a little weird because it's a multicam clip, so it's got a bunch of layers. But yeah, fill over the top, and it should be fine. I should be able to do that, but I can't. So yeah, good question. Oh, let's see. What are your thoughts on Wave Sync VX? Haven't used it. Sync audio to video. Are you syncing both Boom and Lab to Scratch audio? So, good question, Greg. I generally trust the editor's sync until I notice that it's out, and then I will sync it to the lips on the screen, not the guide track. The guide track can be out of sync. Wouldn't auto-align post 2 and gain automation make it so Boom and Lab can play together? Yes, of course. That's how we do it. Lorenzo, another way to match ADR could be to record the chiak clap slate. You probably mean slap the click of the slate on every scene, or a clap on every scene, then you can sample it. That doesn't generally work. I've tried that and it's kind of hit or miss, usually miss. In a tracking shot, the whole crew, the characters are moving through some dry leaves, which is making huge noise. How to make this scene sound clean? That's tough. Ideally, wild tracks. If you have to reduce the noise, you're going to have to use some pretty heavy tools. I would look at Acon Digital, Dialogue, Extract. I would look at maybe trying Adobe Podcast, that cleanup tool. I mean, there's all kinds of noise reduction tools. The leaves are tough because they're crunchy, transient sounds. Paul says, while dialogue mixing, do you ever use clip effects? No, I do not. I use plugins and automation. That's a big part of mixing, is automation. Usually in a dialogue edit, there's no automation. Even like somebody walks off screen, I will just not do volume automation for that. Okay. Good question. So at this point, I got about 10 minutes left. Let's take a quick vote. Would you guys like to see the plugin that I have been building? Keeping in mind it's a working prototype. I did share a working prototype on our members only Discord in the plugin dev category. So if you are a member and you want to test it out, right now I have AU and VST3 plugins. The AAX, I need to get a bunch of stuff from Avid to code sign it. So if you'd like to check out, get a little taste of the plugin I've been working on, I can show it to you. And like I said, if you're a channel member, it's on our Discord. You'll have to test it in something that supports VST or AU because I don't have the AAX code signed yet. So it looks like, let me see how many votes we got. One sure, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9 yeses, a cool, and a Christmas in May from Brandon Wells. So I think I'm going to show it to you guys. Okay, so let me open up a project. I mean, I can just slap it on something here. Okay, let me bring up my other. Who's that guy? Yeah, you guys can see this. Let me make sure I have the chat where I can see it. I'm gonna really milk this and take my time setting it up because I am pretty happy with. Oh, that's right. There's this thing where I can't drag this out very far. That's okay. Okay. We have another question, so let me get to this first. What's your opinion? This is from Jeremy Emery. What is your opinion on sending audio to RX clip by clip versus processing an entire selection at once? I've seen it done both ways on big union dialogue edits. I prefer sending the individual clips to RX because it maintains edits if I need to adjust it, and the file names and that kind of stuff. And yes, the fill does tend to blend in naturally. It also looks better to do an entire selection, like you get one giant audio file that's like 5 seconds long versus 80 little clips with micro edits. Okay, and you say you don't hear it bumping in and out. So the bumping you can change in a Pro Tools setting, which is the clip auto fade in and out, and that's bit me in the butt a few times. But yeah, one of the best dialogue editors I know will do the entire selection in RX. He doesn't do clip by clip, and I think it looks like this is an edit. So I'm not doing a this is an edit in DaVinci Resolve. If you guys want to see me, I can do this. Wait, no, I can do this deal, and then you can see me. See? This is an edit. You know what? Let's do a different project. Let's do one where I'm outside. I have another YouTube channel that I do gold prospecting on, which I much prefer to sitting in my studio all day. So there's me out in the woods. So we'll do this one. Okay, so plugin. Let me delete it. Okay, I'm going to share this with you guys. So over here on bus, I'm going to go, right now it's uncategorized, and I'll do the AU version, which, oh, did I delete it out of here? I just have the VST version. Let's see if it actually loads. Oh, I might have to recopy it. Yeah, let me recopy it into my plugin folder. I was messing around with this last night. Okay, component. And I need to give it my password. And then I probably need to reload DaVinci, so bear with me. This is good. This is more anticipation for you guys. While I wait for this to reload, let me just redo this. Okay. Recap kind of what we talked about. It's important to differentiate between dialogue editing and dialogue mixing. In a dialogue edit, we're adjusting sync, clip gain, we're organizing the tracks, we're adding fill, fades, missing sounds, we're removing and reducing mics that aren't useful, transient imperfections, but we're not touching broadband noise. We're saving that for the mix. In the mix, we're adjusting tonality, dynamics, balance, and volume. We're adding certain frequencies that are lacking, we're adding space where it's necessary, and we're removing or reducing bad noise, resonances, sibilance, and imperfections. We're doing all this also with the context of other tracks, with music especially. Okay, so there's that. Okay, so this should work. Let's see, uncategorized, AU, DX bus. Fingers crossed it'll load. All right, this is a working prototype at this point. So what this is when I'm mixing, even if I'm mixing in DaVinci Resolve, like these are YouTube videos, they're anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes long, and I don't like to spend too much time on plugin automation. And the other thing is I do have a certain sound that I like with dialogue recordings. I have a certain combination of frequencies that I like to hear. So generally, what I do on my dialogue bus is I have a high pass filter. And so there's an adjustable frequency on the high pass filter. That then feeds into a, so this processing is how I like to think of it. The processing in the plugin is actually a little different. So it goes through the high pass frequency, then it goes to the de-esser, then it goes to the compressor, and then it goes out to a safety limiter, which has fixed controls. So you should not be able to clip, in other words, go over 0 with the output of this plugin. The safety limiter is set, I think I said it's like -2 or -4. It's something, that's safe for dialogue. So anyways, you've got a high pass frequency. You have a compressor threshold, a ratio that can go up to 20 if you're doing like super crunchy VO. The default setting for these is kind of what you're seeing. I have this set to 2.5. Threshold at -18, the attack at 10 milliseconds, the release at 200 milliseconds. Makeup gain, you can crank this pretty high up. I capped it at 20 dB if you're doing that much makeup gain. Go back to your dialogue edit. A dry wet mix for the compressor. Some people like to do parallel compression with like 80% or 50%. Then we have a sidechain de-esser, which has a threshold and a DS amount, and then a transparent safety limiter after it. So all of this was set up to be kind of like a channel strip for your dialogue bus with an RMS compressor, a high pass frequency, a basic de-esser, and then a safety limiter at the end of the chain. So you just, you could combine, what I would normally do is I'd have a Pro Q3, and I'd have the Pro DS, and I'd have the Pro compressor, and then the Pro limiter, and that's like 4 plugins, and like I just wanted to combine my favorite dialogue bus tools into one channel strip that was focused on dialogue. So it's not, like a super crunchy peak compressor. It's an RMS compressor, which tends to be more transparent. And there's some stuff I need to tweak on this, but it's getting pretty close. So at this point, I am pretty comfortable sharing this as like a beta for channel members. So if you're a channel member or you want to become one, go to the Discord. If you're a new member and you haven't been to the Discord, go to my YouTube channel and then go to community, and there's a link there that will give you access to the Discord, and you'll see it in plugin dev. There's a link to download this. It's just an AU and a VST right now. I still need to get it code signed and a bunch of other stuff, but it should work for testing. So I'm probably going to tweak the graphic user interface a bit, and I might tweak some of the DSP in this, but it's pretty close to being ready. So it's close. I'd like to get it out in the next month or so. So then my question for you guys is, like, how much should I price this for? It's kind of just a simple channel strip. It doesn't have any fancy AI stuff. It doesn't have any noise reduction. I've thought about adding a noise reduction process to it, like a low CPU usage one, but then it's like it just eats up more memory, and I really think you should do the noise reduction on the tracks. Since this is like a bus channel strip, I want to keep it pretty lightweight. So what should I price it at? Who do you see using this? Would you use this? I know, like, I've got all the Avid plugins and the Fab Filter. So this was really, I want to price this low enough so that somebody that's working in DaVinci, will want it, because it does a lot of things in one plugin instead of having like 4 different plugins doing 4 different things. So I have to kind of figure out what it should be priced at. I'll do research on this, obviously, and I have a ways to go with the certifications and the code signing and all the proprietary Avid stuff to release an AAX version as well. So this is coming. Like, it's going to happen. I just have to figure out the details of it. But if you're interested in helping me test it out, you know, join as a member, or if you are a member, go to the Discord, go to the plugin dev like channel and grab it. You know, help me run it through its paces. So yeah, so I'm interested. Let's see, we got some people saying $30, 30 to 50, 49, 50. That's kind of what I was thinking. I mean, I could price it super low, like $10, you know, just to try and get it out there. I've got other ideas for plugins that I'm going to be testing and building as I have time, because I've got time right now. I'm waiting for my next project. It should be here next week, but I figured while I have downtime, instead of screwing around or trying to get unemployment or whatever, I will just try learning a new thing. So this is the new thing I've been sort of learning and still not good at it. Also, if any of you do DSP or do plugin development, let me know, because I would love to pay somebody to help me finish this, because I'm getting to the point where it's a little beyond what I'm, you know, used to. Like, I can learn anything, but some stuff it's just best left to the professionals, as you guys know. So yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think that's going to be it for the stream today. And we have a question. Israel says, do you like the sound of it? I love the sound of it. The compressor sounds very natural, and it's like pretty transparent. I've limited the controls to be very, like, you know, dialogue specific. I don't want people to be able to crunch it, you know, like really make it sound nasty. I want this to be just kind of a slap it on your dialogue bus and it just makes things sound good. Like, it smooths out the dynamics. It takes a little bit of the high frequencies out with the de-esser, you know, and just have it be a useful, like, let's help your videos sound as good as they can. You know, like, this is really going to be aimed at people who, I'm sure some people who mix regularly will enjoy it, but it's really going to be priced at the level of, like, hey, if you're doing YouTube videos or if you're having to finish TV shows in DaVinci, you know, this will help you get across the finish line way faster. So Paul says include presets. I've got my preset that I really like. Like, it's, when you open it, it's gonna have the settings be like, here you go. You know, this is Tom's preferred settings for this. And I really thought about locking them, you know, saying, nope, I want you guys to use this attack, this ratio, but I figure let people decide, you know, what they're, it's different for different languages. People might want more compression, less compression. So I tried to keep everything accessible for, you know, people to tweak. So yeah, yeah, thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate all the support. Huge thank you to channel members. I didn't do a member of the week last week, but Kevin Broman was the member of the week for the preceding week, and I'll make sure to do one this week. I got a little bit busy. And yeah, so thank you guys so much. Like, anybody who's bought stuff off my website, watched a video, liked a video, commented, subscribed, joined as a member, you guys are really keeping everything afloat. So I appreciate that. I've even in the past couple weeks gotten to do some consulting with people. They've hired me to talk them through some stuff. So all that is very appreciated. And yeah, so thank you guys, and I'll make sure to check on the Discord. There's a request to include presets from people that test it. That's such a great idea. We'll even call it like Mike Wax. You know, we'll call it the members' names who are helping me test this. I feel like that's a good homage to them. So really good idea from Paul and Mike. So thank you guys. And again, thanks for checking out the stream. I'll see you guys on the next one. Till then, try to stay busy, stay positive, spend time with your family, get outside, get out of your dungeons. I'm going to spend some time outside chopping firewood. That's super important. And I'll see you guys next time. Till then, take care.